Hey, welcome back to an old guy bicycle Shop Talk Tuesday. Yes, if it's Tuesday, we are talking about Shop Talk, right? Well, it is January going into February, and it is cold as cold can be. We've had some pretty good cold snaps, therefore, it's really hard to get out there and do some riding. So that puts a lot of us into doing bike maintenance and getting ready for the season or indoor training or whatever else occupies your mind that does not involve a lot of consumption of alcohol. Any case, welcome back to An Old Guy Bicycles, and today we're going to talk about, well, the big topic in the room. Would you own a bike shop? Would you want to be an owner of a bike shop? I mean, there's a lot of people out there, they're enticed in buying a shop or opening a shop, and this is the time of year that a lot of people are like bored with their life, job, maybe looking for a different outcome of what they want to do on their day-to-day, try to incorporate their passion. So I launched a video, which I had some chitter chatter from comments before asking about, what is a good deal or what is a good perspective of looking into owning a bike shop. Well, there's been several shops in the last 3 to 5 years that have opened and closed quickly because of not knowing the scary details. Somebody's not telling you right from the horse's mouth. There's places you can go to get more information on this. That's more direct, but when you're talking to major brands and reps and all that, they're really going to sugarcoat it and not give you the real honest truth. And let's just face it, you need to cut the crap and understand what you're really getting yourself into. You can't really weigh your passion and your desire and your bank account on something that you may not know or little of, and the hardships that come with it. So therefore, that's what we're going to dive into as in one of the main topics. But as we start with Shop Talk Tuesday, I got a bike in my stand, and you've probably seen this the weeks before. Well, it's still being in work in progress. I'm going to go over a couple things on this real quick, and hey, see what we have on in here. Got a few people watching. Awesome. Yeah, the chat's behind me just to move everything around will be kind of a pain. But anyway, if you have any questions, please ping below. If you have any questions about anything opening, running, regardless of a bike shop, I can give you my insight of the 35 years of experience that I've been in the industry, from mom and pop shop to big chains to working with software, worked with multiple chain stores and smaller stores across the nation. So I don't know everything, but I have a pretty big, or I have a pretty deep well of knowledge. And any case, that will hopefully help you if you're in it or just starting it or thinking about doing something as crazy as opening up a bike shop. It can be very fruitful in a sense of personally. Economically, you're not going to make a lot of money at it unless you come in with a lot of money. But if it's a passion, if you have the opportunity, it's something you desire to do. Some things are just not going to stop you from doing it, right? But there's opportunities to do things. You may have to compromise, or maybe compromise a lot to get where you want to be at. But at the end of the day, it can be a very successful, fruitful experience. And it is a big club of individuals that have owned shops, working in shops, have retired from shops. And the cycling industry in the whole, from the last 30 to 50 years, talking to John Bradley, a buddy of mine, it's fun, it's rich, it's global, it is diverse now in so many different directions. And I'm excited for the future, even though there's a lot of negativity going on, as in hardships, but there's some silver linings there. And I want to present some of those silver linings or potential for you to think about when you're going forward in an adventure like this. But in any case, talking about going back in the past, this particular bike is a Trek 970. This one was one of the particular models we carried back in the Parker Bikes days in the 90s. We were a Trek dealer, and we were drinking the Trek Kool-Aid at the time, as well as Schwinn. And we know where Schwinn went. In any case, this is a pretty cool steel frame. You can pick up some of these. Don't knock the 26ers. They're still around. Actually, you can get them pretty inexpensive. There's also a gravel conversion Facebook page, and I'm sure there's other social media pages out there where they have conversions. You can put drop bars on these and convert it to a pseudo gravel adventure style bike versus paying the $13 to $15 to $2,000 for a gravel bike that kind of is similar. Granted, you don't have the bigger wheel sizes like the 29s, but quite honestly, if you're just adding a fun bike to your quiver, the M+1 scenario, this is a pretty low expensive lift comparably to the new. So you can pick up something like this for a couple $100, put some parts into it, another couple $100, under $500. You can have yourself a nice little fun, a gravel experience bike. And the prices in the used market have dropped quite considerably in the last year or so. So you're finding some really good buys, decent condition, that kind of thing. This one was gifted to me, so I'm actually building it back up. Didn't have all the parts on it, so I had to go through those little bits, and I'm going to go over that a little bit here, and I have some cool little insights on these grip shift. If you don't know what grip shift is, you've been underneath a rock for the last 30 years. Grip shift was the counter competitor of the 90s shifting Shimano. These were Shimano compatible. They didn't have their whole drivetrain. They were just the shifter that came out, and instead of the thumb shifters, you had the twist, which was kind of cool. I had a pair of these and raced on them back in the 90s. Not a very good racer. This didn't actually enhance or take away from my performance. Let's put it that way. But it was kind of nice to be able to do those kind of adjustments. What was nice about the front is it was ratcheting. So you don't have those index. You can kind of adjust or trim if you want your front derailleur to accommodate that wider range of gears. And you're talking about 32 to 34 was the max size back then in the back. So you had like a 22, 34. I mean, you were like almost doing wheelies on a 26-inch wheel going up a mountain. But anyway, yeah, I have some good insights on that. Also, I did steal some LX Cantilever mountain brakes prior to V-brakes off of this Bontrager that I have behind me. So the reason, what's going on here is I'm kind of stealing parts from two other bikes to build up one, plus buying some stuff. And at the end of the day, I'm going to be selling 2 frames and a full bike, all 26 inches. I just haven't listened to those yet. I'm just kind of do it all at once. Besides, I want to finish the video on this guy. So there's going to be a series of videos on the frames and also the venture of putting this thing back together. That will be featured on this old bike channel. I did open up the channel, has a few videos up there now, and coming forward, those older 10+ year bikes and parts and tools will be featured on that particular channel. Reason being, it needs its own space. And this channel is great, but it's more, it has been occupied a lot by with the newer stuff and so forth. So I might do a live for this old bike as well at some point, but at this point in juncture, hey, yeah, that's where we're at. But in any case, let's talk about these shifters. Grip Shift came out with, they've had Grip Shift, and this is kind of like the 3rd iteration or the 2nd or 3rd. The first version of these were clear, and they cracked. So either by design or by material, most likely by material, they needed more of a UV protective material. So when they went to the smoked version of the X-Ray, this is what I had on my race bike back in the day, then the plastic held on. Believe it or not, I've actually taken these completely apart, overhauled them, and put them back together and cleaned them. Everything seems to be just fine. I mean, a little bit of discoloring and so forth from age, but other than that, though, they are functionally fine. You'll find that video. It dropped on this old bike channel, so check that out. I have a link to the channel in my description below, too. So after this, you can give yourself some extra binge watching time on checking out, taking this apart, putting it back together, that kind of thing, and putting new cables. These are a tricky bit to put new cables on, so watch that video to help you figure out that classic 30-year-old part, how to put that cable in if you have one yourself. I do have some cannibalized parts left over from this bike. It did have originally the smoked shifter for the front, but somewhere in the history it destroyed itself. But this is the newer version of the 8-speed grip shifter here. This is the older one here. So you can notice that the grip size is shorter, so less. What the concerns were is you'll misshift when you're off-road riding and doing all that jarring and jumping around. I remember doing clinics from grip shift back in the day. You know, there's like the part in there called a Snoopy nose, and you got to do a loop on this one. This one's more of a direct connect, and then you have bolts, and it's kind of a little tricky. So watch the video, and then I cleaned it with ultrasonic cleaner, not with harsh any chemicals, just straight warm water to kind of clean everything out. But in any case, these turned out really well. I mean, you know, it engages nice. It's not worn out. We'll see once we get the derailleur on there and the wheels and all that case. But the front, you know, they work pretty good. They have a stiffness to them, so that eliminates also that misshift while you're riding kind of thing. So you have to be pretty into it to actually get it to work. So that's kind of a cool thing. I did switch out the bars to more of the modern Traeger, classic bar ends, regular bar and stem, as well as I have a Control Tech made in USA C-post black, and then I had a nicer, better condition Bontrager saddle than the one that was on there. So did some, I would say these were technically upgrades because these are like about a year or two newer of this vintage, but they're the same. Cleaned out the headset and put new grease and all that. The bottom bracket I pulled because on a steel frame, even though the bottom bracket might feel good, pull it if it's used. Therefore, you can clean out any kind of maybe rust or gunk, because a lot of that stuff will drain to the bottom bracket area, and that's where you definitely want to pull that out, clean it out, and put fresh grease, face it if need to be. You can take it to your shop and have them pay 20, 30 bucks, whatever, to have it refaced, basically cleaning all the threads and the external portion of it. With that being said, the other tricky bit I had to wait for on parts was, well, these brake pads were worn down, and these age and get hard. You can kind of see the taper there, and the interesting bit is, I wanted to reuse these because they're vintage, right? And that's something I wanted to do. I don't want to throw on some other cantilever style on there, what have you. But believe it or not, I was able to find one, and on Amazon, the link is below. I actually sourced it. So if you have like a Cantilever XT or LX, these are cartridge system. Kool makes brand new ones that you can buy, and it's like 30 bucks for both sets, so it's like 15 bucks a set. So comparable to today's pricing. Interesting enough that when they gave me the invoice, $31.96 with tax, but apparently Kool does all these other vintage brake pads. So, hey, like the old classic Campanolo, you got some, what was Sun Tour one, blocks. I mean, some of these I haven't seen in several decades. So that was a fun little piece of paper that I got from them. It was interesting and intriguing. I may not ever come across any of those, but hey, what can you say, right? Oh, I finally got my chat to work on the phone. All right. Hey, bicycles. Thank you for joining us. And today we're doing a Shop Talk Tuesday. Just a recap, 970. Yes, I've shown this before. But we're at the stage here where I'm added the shifters, overhauled those. Video on this old bike, which is another channel of mine. Then I'm going to be doing a little vintage video here. I haven't done it yet, but replacing the brake pads on those and finding where they are. Because you can just sit there and scratch your head for days like, where do I find these? But yeah, I found them. I jumped off the bridge and went, okay, I'll buy them. 30 bucks, let's give it a try. They fit perfectly. They slide right in. I double checked it. They're the same DI and everything. So that worked out well. I did do a ceramic coating on this frame, so it's nice and clean, even though it still has boo-boos on there. it's going to be a little more protected. So detailed, ceramic coated, cleaned up the bottom bracket, got that to go pretty good. Yeah, I'm just waiting for cables and housing. So I'm working on another bike. You'll see behind me this gold thing behind here. That's actually a Lightspeed. And that Lightspeed had this gold braided housing. Well, the owner of that, I'm doing a complete overhaul on that one. I featured that in last week's video on Shop Talk Tuesday. And he brought in a whole bunch of Redshift stuff, which I'm doing feature videos that will be on this channel because it's newer stuff. The bars, the little shock stem, and the C-post. That's going to be some fun stuff to go over and how to install and to adjust. But he wanted to keep the gold braiding. Well, the gold braiding, unfortunately, that was on it, even though it was fairly newer, is not going to accommodate the lift that he's going to do on the front end of the cockpit. So I have to get some longer ones. So I went ahead. I didn't, I found some on eBay for like 20, 25 bucks. And they come with the front and rear Jaguar, good brand, supposedly. So it's coming over from China, really. And I'm not sure if it's a knockoff or whatever. It looked inexpensive. But I'm like, I don't know if I feel I trust that. So I went ahead and bought a 10-meter roll of the brake housing and the shifting housing. And I'm like, well, maybe I can use other stuff on other. And it cost me about 50 bucks a roll. So it's pretty big. But I'm like, gold? Holy cow, this will work just nicely as a nice little accent on this 970, which the decaling has a little bit of a gold too. Ha! So anyway, yeah, so that cuts that price down a little bit by using it. So if anybody needs some gold housing, I'm a guy to talk to. And if you don't want to spend 50 bucks for a roll, we'll figure out something for you. But in any case, and plus the shifting cables and the brake cables that were coming over from China were galvanized. I wanted to use stainless because this deserves it, but that Lightspeed titanium gold bike definitely deserves it. You want the best quality stuff that you can get on those to perform well. We're going to do some retro parts still on that with Ultegra. I believe he's having me source some shifters that need to be replaced as well as a nicer wheel set. So we got some stuff going on there. But this guy, I got the wheels. Yeah, they're okay. They're pretty decent, but they match. Granted, I can't put too much into this bike. That's where you can do that weight, cost of balance stuff. I mean, I can go all day and be like, oh, it's 800 bucks to get my money back out of it. Nobody's going to buy this for 800 bucks. So any case, but I wanted to definitely feature this, because the shifters, I got a video up, and the brakes I will be putting up there, and the frame turned out immaculate. I mean, it has that kind of a root beer, reddish with classic gold decaling. It's a true temper frame. So yeah, made in the United States. These were made in Waterloo, Wisconsin. Pretty decent. So this will be a pretty cool ride, definitely. Let's see here. All right. Okay, so here we are. What we got? We got a few of us in there. So yeah, we got some stuff to talk about for sure. I got some of my paperwork over here. Go over. So in a bike shop and details, that kind of thing. But yeah, so interesting enough, you really don't need, if you need to take this apart, the headset portion of it. I have a couple of videos on my my YouTube channel where you only need an Allen wrench to be able to take this apart, clean it, and put it back together. Just be mindful of your adjustments, your spacers, and all that stuff, and grease by cleaning. The drivetrain on this, I took the crankset apart. That one you'll need some specialty tools. To take a square taper bottom bracket apart, you'll need a park tool, which is an Allen wrench, of course, to get the caps off, but you need a park tool. This is the CCP-22. There's a couple of different things. You want to get the one that does the square taper, which is a little bit narrower than the Holotech style. That's one tool you'll need. And the second one is this beast here. This guy is, oh, is there a part number on this one? Yeah, there is, sweet. It's the Park tool. Oh, bad eyes, BB2 or BB222. This has a little spline to it, and that's how you get in there, and you could use a Allen wrench, or not, sorry, open socket, or to do it proper, you buy yourself the $100 torque wrench. Mainly for installing, and I think it's around 50 to 55 Newton meters that you need to do to put that on there to do it correct. Torque is key, especially on all the newer stuff, so you're gonna have to invest into that. But with those two, that's how you get the old classic bottom brackets out, and that's when it was simpler days, because that particular style was used on several models of the bikes, even the knockoff bottom brackets, different brands, and they used it for like 5 to 6, 7 years before they went to the external bearing. Well, lo and behold, sure shit later, I have 5 other style of bottom brackets, and that includes everything that's out there now to accommodate all the new crap in the last 5 years. So it almost seems like every new year, oh, we got a new bottom bracket. You need to get a new tool on it, and then you got a new torque on it, and you got to figure out how to use it. Okay, newer stuff is kind of driving me a little crazy, but it was kind of nice. This is back in simpler times where you can actually work on this stuff. Everything is external, accessible, plenty of videos out there to work on it. You got old timers like me making newer content on old stuff to help you figure out how to use and work old tools and onto older bikes. In any case, here we are. So that's your little tech tip on tools. Torque, you don't have to get the parts. You can get, there's several different off brands to do those, especially if you're only going to use it for a few times. The reason why I have the parks is it's more of a professional tool, looks good on the tool wall, mainly. They do have a good warranty on them. If I have any problems with any of the park tools, I can call them up like, hey, it doesn't seem like it's calibrated or whatever. They'll swap them out. They're really good. I've worked with them over the years. So if you're using it almost on a semi-daily basis, then you upgrade your tool. If you're only going to use it for like once or twice a year, if that, the less expensive ones will work just fine in most cases, for sure. All righty. So yeah, I'm excited to get this wrapped up this week, and then I'll get them all listed up. The gold bike, I'm still sourcing parts, the Lightspeed, so that's going to probably be another week or two until I get everything together. And again, it is winter. We have enough snow on the ground. I can't even test ride bikes right now, unless I just want to stick to the sidewalks, which is not a good deal. But in any case, I'm talking about deals, my weekly deals. I did find something very interesting on there. The weekly deals is in the description below and are underneath my Amazon store. The waxers are back. If you're looking for waxers, it's like $39 for a 2-pot system. Why I'm saying this is, what's interesting is Silka's came up with a package deal on their waxer and wax and cleaner, and when you add it all up, I think it's over $200. You can get a 2-pot for $38, a bag of wax, or even a less expensive version for $20. So right there, you're in $60. And you can buy yourself a less expensive ultrasonic cleaner just to clean the chains for around $70, or you can pony up in the bigger Beaver ultrasonic cleaner, the 15 liter that I was using is on sale for $129. So technically you can get the ultrasonic cleaner and all this other stuff and still be half, if not about the same price with more stuff in your shop for what they're trying to sell as a package. So price it out, check it out. It's under my Amazon shop. I've got some good, interesting deals there. But the double waxer, I've been using it for over a year now. It works fine. And you want a double waxer, the reason being is when you go to re-wax, you have a dirty wax, and then you have a clean wax. And you don't have to re-clean the chain at all. You rinse it if you need to, if it's gunked up with mud or whatever. But when you do a re-waxing of a chain, it's pretty simple. You just take that chain and you dip it in one wax, which is the dirty wax, for 10, 15 minutes, swirl it around, agitate it, then reapply it into the more fresh wax and let it sit there 10 to 15 minutes, agitate it and let it cool a little bit, and then hang it. Got all the parts underneath my Amazon store. You can check it out. But therefore, you can pretty much wax pretty quickly, or you can just do the drip and let it sit for a couple hours and go. That's in there too. And also I have videos on a wax series as well on my channel, so you can look into that. But the ultrasonic cleaner for 130 bucks, I think it is, actually a pretty good deal. And I've even cranked on it for like 2.5, 3 years before I had any issues with the switch. And then again, I fixed the switch, and then it works fine still. So, but yeah, you can spend $200-300 on an ultrasonic cleaner. You don't have to get the big one either. You can get a little bit smaller size and that kind of deal too. I haven't. Bicycle. Yeah. This is more of a show and tell Shop Talk Tuesday, because it's more of a talk than actually do. So if you, doing the actual working is actually in the videos that I've edited and all that, so you don't, you actually get all the highlights too. Yeah, this is not the show that I'm just gonna sit here and just gonna watch me work. I got hours of content. You can binge all that you want, going from there as well. So that's what this one's here is, actually more talk than actually doing. Hey Joe, thanks for joining us. Oh yeah, I bet it's really chilly outside, isn't it? Yeah, we got several snowstorms here. I've been using up that snowblower like no man, and helping out my neighbors. I got 2 ranches on both sides. Of course, they have older people living in them, so I try to help them out as much as possible. Yeah, David, thank you for joining us. Appreciate it. Yeah, working on bikes. Having your own boss. That's funny. Being your own boss is one thing, but you're also left by yourself, self-driving yourself insane, because I'm always constantly working in my head. So that's where you can't, when you do a business like this, you just can't turn it off, unfortunately. But fortunately, if you really enjoy doing it, then you're kind of in your happy place, right? That's kind of how I look at it, kind of deal. So, in any case, that's pretty much it. We're going to the topic piece. What time are we? Yeah, we're about ready to jump into the topic. I'm gonna try to do it at the bottom of the hour. But yeah, to catch a lot of people up here, thank you for joining me on Shop Talk Tuesday. We just talked about the bike I'm currently working on and the kind of the woes in doing that. I did do an interview with yesterday with Precision e-bike here in Fort Collins. I'll be hopefully producing that video and releasing it this weekend if I have time. And very interesting bits. I learned a lot, believe it or not. I'm always learning. I mean, the industry is so freaking big, you're constantly learning. If you're not, you're just a fuddy-duddy old man. Anyway. So the interview is really cool. We'll be doing another follow-up interview more on e-bike industry, but a lot more things, and it's a booming market. So if you're looking, it's a one guy shop, so it really ties in what we're talking about today and the video that I dropped last weekend about owning a small shop and being a one-person niche shop. His location's only 600 square feet, so it's really small. And he is pumping some really decent volume and doing really well. And it's going to, because he specializes in fixing and working on e-bikes. So that's, a lot of those bikes have been sold are going to need some help at some point here and another. Yeah, so, oh yeah, good point. The customer is the boss. Yeah, but it's like, yeah, you're being a boss. I mean, I've been in this scenario a couple times. I mean, working with my parents at the bike shop, it's kind of like, yeah, we were our own boss in the sense there. Then I worked for corporations and bigger bike chains, and that made it a little bit easier because the less stress was off of my plate. And being an independent boss, it's really about managing that stress. And also, yeah, the customer is what drives your business or whatever that direction or whatever you're working in. It's like right now, I wouldn't say you guys are the boss. Well, maybe you guys are the boss because you do the clicking and the watching, and that's where I get my revenue. Aren't you the boss? Either way, there's always definitely some driving factor of any kind of business. And with some cycling, it's really heavy customer base, customer service heavy based business. So yes, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Some people haven't retired yet, but yeah. Any case. All right, let's move over so I can answer these questions a little bit more promptly and more focused. So I'm going to readjust my shop here. Sorry being out of frame, as I know you just are all here to look at my ugly mug to keep everything entertaining. But in any case, what we're looking at is, well, is the state of the industry, is this the good time or bad time to open or buy a shop, that kind of thing? I mean, if you guys are out there and you have a shop and you're watching this, chime in live. If you have any, if you're watching on this replay, feel free to put it in the comments below. A lot of you have chimed in already, and thank you for all of that because it's really given a lot of insight and sharing that communal insights for a lot of us to, understand what the current state of the state. And, different markets are going to have different things going on. So different things we need to watch out for and all that. So yeah, that's my parts left over. Not left over, but I'm still working on that titanium light speed. Had to put them over here to shift around. Sold a frame, had to pack up earlier, and had to do some other work on some other parts, that kind of thing. I'm still, well, I'll be a little tilted because life's a little tilted anyway. All right. So, paperwork. Oh my goodness, I can't keep anything straight. So, when we're looking at the industry and all the ups and woes here and there, and those of us that have been in the industry for a long time, I've seen a lot of these up and downs, right? I'm rubbing my hands because it's a little chilly in here. It's still 40 degrees Fahrenheit. So trying to keep myself warm. And so some of these things we've seen, right, already, like, tariffs, inventory, shortages, inflated prices, costs, all those things, but not all at once, and not as hard and fast. And there's a shop called Guava. I've been watching his channel, and he's been producing some videos. He's a pretty smart cat. He's been around for a while in the industry as well as other things. And I put his link in the description below. Check out a couple of his videos. The latest one, he's talking about what to do in the wintertime. And I think that's a great insight because it's basically a lot of shops, except for a few, like in San Diego or somewhere where the climate is the same year round. A lot of us are going to have off season, and how you manage that off season is going to help you drive and go forward into your next season. It's basically retooling, training, getting ready, doing all these things, or looking at other avenues of making an income. And also in the winter, and the Parker Bikes days back in the 90s, we rented skis and snowboards. And that helped our cash flow immensely for several years until competition came in and took that away. But depending on your market, you got to be able to adjust for all those things. So that's a learning lesson when you're looking at buying a bike shop. It's like, oh yeah, it's fun to work on all these things and put them together and sharing the experience of cycling and so forth. But if that window of time is only 6 months to 7 months, and weather is a very big, it could hurt you quite a bit. you have a longer spring or a longer winter. Winter starts early. All those things, you can kill your actual flow. So you got to keep in mind of all that in your market. And what are you going to have to do? Are you going to have to make an X amount of dollars through that main season to help you with the off season? Yeah, it sounds pretty simple, but to actually do it is the hardest freaking thing to do in your life, because you have all these added expenses and everything else while you're in the summertime or in the height season, and all of a sudden your slow season hits and you're like, oh crap, and then you're out taking loans or borrowing money from family and all that. So you don't want to get yourself, you really want to think about those things in the market that you want to open up a shop. And if you're thinking I can do X amount of size, scale back, start off small. It's better to start off small and slowly grow versus go too big and be out within 6 months to a year. I've seen that happen quite a few times, actually. Yeah, I've seen, oh, thanks for bringing that up, bicycle shop. Yeah, the recycle guy, what intrigues me about him is he's got monetized quickly, which he did within 2 months, which he may have more experience or what have you. It took me like 9 months. Algorithm may have changed to make it a little bit easier for him. But in any case, that's fine. Good for him. Any content that anybody can bring out there about the perspective of bikes, shops, and all of that for people to are already in it or trying to get to do what they're doing on this specific topic, the better. Because quite honestly, we all have different perspectives and different scenarios and different things we should watch out for. And the brain trust, he did mention like, oh, there's nothing out there that does this particular point. So, no, there is. It's called the National Bicycle Association. I'll put a link later in the description below. They've been around for years, and they also have P2 groups, which when I worked at Lee Cyclery, that's how I got into the software and worked with all these other shops, is basically inadvertently through them. So there is brain trusts, and CABDA in Las Vegas this March is having MBDA is having their thing out there, so a great opportunity to sniff them out and check it out if you're going, see if they'd be a good fit for you or not. Well, going back to the recycle guy, they basically work on used bikes and that kind of business model, and they've been doing it for 10 years, what I've gathered. I only watched a couple of videos of his, but he's trying to build up a paid platform where you be a subscriber and you pay part of their, I forget what they call it, affiliate thing or whatever. But the case in point there is he's taken all his hardship knowledge and learnings and is basically selling it to those who are willing to read it and look into it. That's fine. He needs to have an investment return, and that's how he's going to look at it. That's great for me. I'd rather have you guys watch a lot of my videos, go through my Amazon affiliate link and buy stuff that you're going to buy, like your toilet paper and toothpaste and all that, and I'll get a small percentage of that. But really, for me, is the channel is really helping me leverage more business locally, believe it or not, because half of my tune-ups were leveraged, promoted by people watching my channel and coming to me and having their tune-ups done, which is crazy. So there lies an interesting, twisty bit about everything. Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, he does look skinny. He is a skinnier guy. And the videos I did watch were, I'm not going to really judge too much, but it seemed kind of dry. I mean, I can get dry sometimes too, but he really doesn't let any of his personality come out too much. Some people really are camera shy maybe, or just, I don't know. But I mean, what it really comes down to is the information. And what he can provide might be another outlet or a resource. The Guava guy, he's interesting because he's like 9 months into having a shop, and he's talking about like your first year woes. of going through that first lap around the sun and trying to figure out every morning, is this the right damn thing to do? Did I just took away all my life savings and just flushed it down the toilet? Yeah, crazy. But yeah, I mean, if you're in that perspective or what have you, it's actually good to really watch all that for sure. Yeah, thinking, okay, what else we got here? Yeah. I'm gonna go out to Cabda, the Las Vegas one, and a buddy of mine are gonna hang out there, and we're gonna just check out what it is. I mean, it's been a while since I've been to a bike show. I heard it's pretty e-bike eccentric or heavy, so we'll check that out. Why not? And check out the little brands and so forth. It's just, it's not that I'm really going to see what's going to be brought into my shop and what I do. You never know. But it'd be nice to be able to go out and kind of be at a bike show and hang out with bike people and talk about it, and especially with the bike association going to be there, maybe Rob Ellis and some people that I've seen over the years and meet up. The guy that I interviewed yesterday, if you haven't caught that part, he has an e-bike, Precision e-bike, which is in Fort Collins, Colorado. Did a little interview in the shop review yesterday, and I'll have that out hopefully later this week. But he's going, so it's kind of like a community thing. We're going to go check it out and maybe have lunch and just what's your perspective? What you're going to get out of it? I mean, the e-bike guy, Josh at Precision e-bike, we have no competition against it. What we do is completely separate. So it could be literally across the street, and we would just be fine. And that's a good thing. Learning about the e-bike industry and the wear and tear parts and all that, and conversions still really big and that kind of thing. It's kind of cool. Where, like I mentioned on Guava, his channel and his shop, being 9 months in, he realized for his market, being on the east side of the United States, northern, I'm not sure where he's at, somewhere cold and snowy, but he shifted gears, brought on somebody that knows how to work on e-motors and batteries, and they're learning through that whole perspective of the business. And he shifted his business to more e-bike and e-scooter repair, as well as in bikes. And he brought in Giant as a line, as well as a couple others. So I think he's still trying to play with the bike lines and see what's going to work with him in his market. But he did this last video that he just released, I think yesterday or today, about wintertime. You start looking into used. That's what I've been doing for the last 5 years, is refurbishing used bikes, and I've been pounding the table saying this is something you should really think about doing if you own a bike shop. Well, he's alluded to it, and we'll be interested to see if his further videos, see what kind of successes he can get out of it. But it's, it can be a full business. Obviously, the Pros Closet did it. There's also a shop here in Fort Collins, not the recycle guy, but Recycle Cycles is another bike shop in Fort Collins. They've been around for decades, basically selling used bikes. So that was their thing for sure. All right. Let's see here. High-end shocks, hard to move. New shop. The brands. How about the brands you carry if you are in a lower income community besides used bikes? Okay, lower end brands. That's a good one, because honestly, pretty much here's the tricky thing is, even though you may have high-end shops in your neck of the woods, or even more upper class, I had to say it that way, just people that make more upper middle class, let's put it that way, that do have money, will still not buy bikes at bike shops, or at least at the higher level shops like the Trek corporate stores or the specialized corporate stores. It's too much for them. They walk in, they're like, oh, this is not for us. So it does apply to those markets, as well as markets that don't have very much income. Well, then you're competing right directly with the Walmart bike prices and so forth. There is a few bike lines out there. I'd have to double check on their pricing and all that you can bring in as a line, but they're still there. I think Fuji may be one. Jameis might be another. If you go through the Pond Holdings line, you can probably pick up Diamondback is still not being in a department. I know that's being sold to Dick's Sporting Goods at this time, but you might be able to land that. So there's a few. Or you can go through, I don't know, that's a tricky one because there's not very many brands, but there's a few out there. They're not going to be the Trek or the Specialized. Maybe some of the giant price points are going to come down a little bit. So that is a very good question there, David. Because besides used, what's the next thing? Well, you could promote, and by leveraging service and be affiliate related to like Kent International, which has a Medem website, which is a whole bunch of 500 or less bikes that you can leverage the service on it, that kind of thing. And the price points of those are pretty cheap. So there's ways of getting around that. There are some bike lines that are okay. And keep that in mind, they're just okay. But there's this huge gap, right? There's this huge dollar gap from the 500 top end used. I mean, you can go higher, of course, but leveraging that. And then for new, you're not seeing anything decent. Well, bottom of the bottom of what they can provide now is around 800 to 900. So you still have that window of much needed desire bike, which either if it's a mountain bike, a hybrid, or road bike, or gravel, I mean, that's where you can really kind of leverage depending on your used market. If like I'm so fortunate here, the corridor, the metro area corridor of the Front Range is millions of people of Colorado. So for me, in my area, it's like an hour drive and I go pick up 10, 15 bikes under $500 that are a mix of carbon, higher in aluminum, better componentry, better shaped bikes. But if you're in a less expensive community with more remote, that might be a little bit harder. But you can still buy bikes off of bicycles, eBay. You can see if somebody would ship from Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace maybe. Then there's several different of those sites where you can maybe leverage something. But if you have a bike shop with a brick and mortar in the walls, I mean, I'm a garage shop, so people have a little more of a, I guess, an instant stigma of thinking I'm going to be cheaper. And I am a little bit because my overhead's less. But when they know you have a brick and mortar, they're going to expect to pay a little bit more because there's overhead, obviously, when they look into it. Even though if they don't know it or not, they're already kind of anticipating that. So if I'm selling a $500 full carbon refurbished Ultegra bike, and then you have one on your floor, and you're selling it for $700, you can probably get the $700 because you're having the person coming in, they're looking at it, and it's kind of like touchy-feel right off the bat. For me, they have to make an appointment to see it, or they buy it online and I ship it to them. So it's a little bit different kind of dynamic. Therefore, I bring in a little bit cheaper price, but you can still get that margin. That's where it comes down to with that little bit of a markup. So hopefully that helps clear that kind of question and give you any ideas on that. And for like Medem, they'll give $75 credit to assemble. For the customer. So that's a great way of picking up that $75 tune-ups that are right out of the box, pretty easy. And, that's a great way of generating cash flow without too much. Oh yeah, KHS. I totally forgot about KHS. Are they still around? The bike industry is so vast, and I'm only in a small little niche of it. So I'm not poking my head in all these other areas. But going to the bike show, it really opens up. Apparently Shimano's there and Bosch Motors and all that stuff. I'll get some good learnings, fortunately, for that. Yeah, Jameis is a nice brand. We actually carried Jameis back in the 90s. They were actually pretty decent. They were what they call a B line, like Fuji was 2. It's not like your A line, which they were competing against them, bringing the price points down, but the frames are more mass produced, that kind of thing. But hey, you can still get a good bike for the price, and it had decent componentry, so there's nothing really to knock at all. I did great with Raleigh in the beginning, but their prices, the prices went up, huh? Oh man, that's not good. Oh, what about Diamond? Diamond was awesome for the price, but they totally fell off. So that's where, when you have a company like Pond running those companies, they've been shifting really weirdly. It's like it's kind of like whack-a-mole. It's like, and then there lies the underlining piece of it. When you're a smaller shop, you got to really focus on your niche and not this particular brand. You're not like a Trek store or a Jameis store. Your shop, like what you're gonna call yourself, what you're like. I know a guy bicycles. That's my branding that I'm going behind, because that's what I'm, regardless of whatever brands I sell, because they're going to shift around in the next 5 years anyway to whatever's going to be work appropriate for my niche and my market. That's where it's going to be. And David, you're probably experiencing that for sure. Oh yeah, 16 years ago. Yeah, KHS had a big name for a while there, especially in the 90s. They had a pretty big name. I still see a few used ones pop up. It's interesting on that. Let's see here. Yeah, it's interesting where, if you're looking at bike lines in a traditional world, and a couple of you shops have mentioned, you've seen in the replay, please comment below that you've found really big successes in the last year or two under service and used bikes and parts. And right now, case in point, you got a bike that's blown up, and I'm sure all of you shops have a bin full of pretty much perfectly good used parts that you just need to get your staff or yourself to just go through, clean up an ultrasonic cleaner, polish them up, take like 5 or 10 pictures of them, throw them up on Craigslist or eBay or Facebook Marketplace, and just flush out that. I can tell you right off the bat, when I first did that with a bucket full of used pedals, because I was putting on brand new platform pedals, because my customer base was basically new entry-level riders, so they're not going to be in clipless. So I took all the clipless off my used. I had a bucket of these. I made like $300 in about 2 months off of just a bucket of pedals. I mean, without cleats. I mean, just like used, $20, and they would just blow out the door. They're going a little slower now, but that's an example though what you can leverage those used parts. And actually, the only thing that I'm selling right now is not hardly any full bikes, but the parts. So you make yourself $50 here, $20 there, $100 on a crank set, something like this, especially if it's a triple. People are looking for triple stuff night and day. You can make yourself a little extra money to help you get through the colder months. And if you ship nationwide through USPS priority, you can get there for a couple days, not too much cost. You just put that $10 to $15 postage costs on there, and people have been buying stuff. Not a lot, but enough to keep me going. And the frames, I've sold a frame like I mentioned yesterday. That's sold out, and it's going to Texas. Hopefully he'll really enjoy his new full carbon detailed with ceramic coating frame, 5200. But anyway, that's where you can really kind of get back into I'm staring at all my parts bins right across the other direction. And like, I can go through there and I could probably dig out maybe $300 or $400 right there, just sitting there, just waiting to be used. And like one shifter might be bad, we'll just sell the left or the right or whatever the case may be. People are looking for that stuff, especially on eBay. And if you're willing to ship international, if you want to take on that challenge and risk, you can even move more stuff than that too. I've done well with the retrospect, huh? That's a good one, David. But unfortunately, I noticed about 80% of the customers coming in are wanting bikes with the $200 to $300 range. Yeah, which made me used bikes 5 to 1 over brand new bikes. I think that's where the market's really going to sit. Okay, here's a tricky bit. Bike explosion, right? COVID. Too many bikes. Oh crap. Been discounting the bikes for the last 2 years. So anybody it's like you preconditioned the market to think that I'm not going to buy anything new unless it's on sale more than 40% off. And it still is today. It may not be the right size, not maybe the right color, it may not be exactly the right bike, but you still have like bike companies are either going under or flushing, like GT, for example. They flush their bikes from the website, GT from Pond, but there's Planet Cyclery, which is owned by Cambria Cycles, and also, was it Competitive Cyclists? Another one of them. We're selling GTs too. They have those in stock, and they're selling them with a discount. And some are not as much of a discount, and they're like, well, I saw it on the GT website. It was like $8.99 for the comp grade for the gravel. But on the other one, on the other side, they're still selling it for $1,200. So yeah, buyer beware. But the thing is, we're in an environment now where everybody is looking online and buying all that high-end stuff if they've been into cycling. Well, here's the thing is that low-end market, $1,000 or less dollars, is still there. People are still wanting to buy bikes and still wanting to fix those up. And I had a customer that picked up a tune-up just last weekend, and she's looking into a gravel bike, and I told her, well, and she was thinking specifically Specialized model because she has a thing in her head about Specialized. I'm like, okay, that's fine. You can go to the Specialized store here. We got 3 corporate stores. I'm sure they have something on clearance or discounted, and they could probably get a pretty decent price. But you're still going to, even with a decent price, you're still going to pay $1,500 to $2,000. And it's like, well, maybe I can find something, used market for you and keep you at around $1,000. And she's like, that's more than fine with me. Yeah, I'll be ready in a month or 2 to buy one. Like, all right, I'll start looking. And so there lies, even though like the 5-to-1 ratio, you're selling 5 bikes to 1 new, I think that's going to continue. And those who are leveraging the used, and it all depends on your market, of course. And this is not an end-all be-all with like all markets, not a blanket wand to fix everything. But if your market supports it, needs to support that, or you've been doing a lot of new and you're like, man, these are taking a lot longer to sell and so forth, just try a couple. You don't have to go all in, and just try a couple of the used models that match the brands that you have on the floor. Therefore, when that person's looking for that Trek or that Specialized because they have the Kool-Aid in their head, and it might be harder to convince them to buy a brand new Jameis, but they'll look at a used Trek because that's what they want is a Trek, and you carry a Trek too. And then you'll look at apples to apples, like, yeah, it's a few years older, but hey, it's a lot cheaper, and actually you're going to make a little bit more margin on it. In addition to, I've always been pushing this, like the entry-level bikes are you want to make a good amount on them, but they're basically they've always been kind of a loss leader because they're under assumption of that entry-level rider doesn't have any of this stuff. Helmets, gloves, shoes, shorts, water bottle cages, packs, all those accessories to go with it. So therefore, that's where you can actually make up that offset difference on a lower end expensive. But with the used, I can almost guarantee you're going to get more of a percentage margin than if the bike company made a bike for that price point. Case in point, a whole bunch of 820s back in the day that we sold, which was your $300 special. What we made maybe 90 bucks on. And then on that 90 bucks, you paid a mechanic to put it together. Then you paid for the follow-up service. Then you paid the salesperson on there. Then you paid all the other stuff that goes with that. Sure shit, you were actually negative upside down. And that was in the 90s. So yeah, we were definitely making our money on those helmets and the gloves and the shoes and everything. Granted, there were a bit deeper margins on those back in the day, but that's what we were leveraging. Yeah. All right. Spend as much as 300, 400 cents. Yeah. Double my money on new bikes. How do you double your money on new bikes? Buying for me in my shop, therefore paying a little extra. Okay, yeah. I mean, there's the overhead. People understand that. I mean, you got to pay the lights and insurance and all the other business license and, the retail location. And the retail is obscenely expensive. They allude in my video that I released. So the last thing I put is like, if you have X amount of savings money you're going to put into a shop. Some people don't. They're just going in with like a hope and a prayer and a loan. But if you're bringing money into it, buy a location. I mean, it can be small. I mean, it's real estate. Real estate's real estate. And that's where working at Lee's, working with all these shops across the nation, the ones that are super successful, they're the ones that own their own buildings. And they started small. And it took a long time to build up to the size they are now, which was huge. But they own their own buildings. So if you can fix that cost from the beginning, that's going to save you hundreds of thousands of dollars going forward. Crazy to think about. For example, shop I was at yesterday, 600 square feet. It's paying X amount of dollars on it. Whoa, that's almost as much as a mortgage. And then every year he has to pay an incrementally increase on that square footage. Only on already 600, and that's like everything you make, you're going to lose because of that. Plus all the other expenses, everything else goes up, right? But if you get a fixed mortgage on those around here in my neck of the woods, they've been building these garages with bathrooms and heaters and all this. And you can, like, they're called lifestyles. Basically, it's an glorified storage unit, but you can insulate them and all that. But you can buy them, and for like $250,000. I know that sounds like a lot still, but it's an investment. Or you can find one of those off developments. The thing is, the internet, and if you market yourself correctly, you don't have to have the brick and mortar facing with foot traffic location as much. You can pull yourself back and be a more remote spot. Case in point, in a garage in a neighborhood, I'm still successful doing what I'm doing. And I can be just as successful, if not more, having that little storage unit building retail space versus if you start off there, you're cutting your risk down immensely. And then you can have your trial and errors, and they're not going to put you out of business, or most likely, not as fast. And therefore, you can build up on that. Then you have real estate. And then if it doesn't work out, you still have the building. It's the best way I can probably put it to you. And if you can buy it, or if you're lucky to get a landlord that's not going to bring your rate up every 3 to 5 years and just keep it a fixed rate, that's great too. But quite honestly, the real estate portion of it is the best direction to go if you can wing it, for sure. Or if you can't, go small so you can actually control that. I think it was what I was told yesterday. It was like 10% of what you make, net profit, what you make. You keep it below 10% is what your overhead is for a building or a location. That means, you got to make a certain amount to cover all that. And that's what killed us at Parker Bikes. We expanded, paid more, market dropped, Dad came down with cancer, we were done. We were done in 7 months. And we were there for 13 years. So it happens to the best of us. It was wrong timing, cards against us. The brands did not support us whatsoever. They're like, oh, that's too bad for you. So they pulled our lines, and we were done. It's just, that's what can happen. So that was basically a real estate portion, a huge portion of that put us under. If we would have just downsized, like everybody was doing 2 years later, we would probably still be in business today, but hindsight. But the real estate portion of it, and what you pay on a monthly for that square footage, is going to be one of your biggest dictators of how your business is going to go. Guaranteed. Yeah, David, with the free tune-ups. Yeah, thank you for sharing, by the way, David. I appreciate it. A one-man army with a 3,000 square foot shop. Honestly, my garage was bigger than the shop I was in yesterday. And, he's doing great for what he's doing. It's awesome. But, it can be done. I mean, yeah, you get very creative on every square inch of your space. And you got to do that anyway, regardless of whether it's a shop. is for sure. And leveraging that square footage and what it's going to produce. I got a little shipping area. I got a little fit area. I got my service area. I apparently now have a studio area. Then I had shelving for storing my bike boxes and parts and everything. And then I do have a basement where I can do overflow. So you can really get creative. If you need to find space or whatever, or you can rent a storage unit for hopefully super cheap in your area for the overflow in the bigger months, that kind of thing, for sure. Absolutely. Good talk. Appreciate it. But with the tune-ups, I offer 2 free minor tune-ups with those bikes. Okay. Yeah. The free tune-up thing, I think is still a thing now. I mean, maybe not with the truck or specialized stores. I was in one shop in Michigan and they had like free tune-ups for life. Please don't go down that rabbit hole. Because people will drag out that 30-year-old bike and be like, here, you're supposed to do a tune-up. And the free tune-up, if you don't know, is really just a look over, air up the tires, lube your chain, and tell you wherever else is wrong with your bike. It's really just a safety check for the most part. But on a new bike, there's some legitimacy to it where the cables might lengthen. That's if it's still a cable-actuated bike. And some minor adjustments and that kind of thing. And that really was that design, is to bring that customer back in and, hey, do you want a new computer put on that? Which people don't use computers anymore. But bottle cages, or that's when you get that accessory sale to put on the bike. Oh, you want to, you've been thinking about getting a water bottle cage on that and all that? New grips, different saddle, just a conversational piece. But that's what's all it's designed to do for the free tune-ups. There's 2 shops in Michigan, Ann Arbor, and they went at it. I mean, they went at it. They hit each other. And they were basically racing to the bottom. So lifetime on tune-ups and this and that and the other. And, one eventually failed, went out. And the other one that I was working at was still holding the bag of all the bad decisions they were doing for the last 10 years. Free tune-ups for life. Had every team in the town under the sun giving them deep discounts just to get people in the door where they made no money and wasted time on. They were able to recover. They're doing great now. They have multiple locations. But that was definitely a learning for them. Even though they may not admit it or not, it was definitely a learning for sure. So keep in mind, you got all that too. Estonia. Oh, hey you. Thanks for reaching out. Absolutely. That's great. Doing a broader reaching out to those people. But to get you up to date, if you guys are just jumping in, we're talking about my latest video that I had dropped. Basically the topic was, you want to own your own bike shop? So going back to the case point here, the one gentleman that kind of sparked this, he reached out through, he emailed me too. And he's like, I'm thinking about buying a shop. And it's not a very big populous area, but it's pretty close to a populous city, and it's in the south, so it's warmer, so this would be in season. And it's only a shop in that particular location, but it's still pretty close to the metro. And that's a tricky bit. I mean, I don't know all the other details other than that. And what comes to me is like, well, is he selling the building with it? Is the dollar, why is he getting out? Take that with a grain of salt. Is his business numbers great? Because everybody's business numbers were great for a couple of years there. He's mostly just on this and that. What you want to see yourself doing in that shop? Is it better just to renegotiate a different lease and just build up on your own? Is it really a good carryover of staff? So there's a lot of things that go into that play, and especially if you're putting a lot of money into it. It could be good. Most of the time not. So, think about it as this way. Trek did a power grab on buying a whole bunch of shops through the United States, 500 stores plus. Just keep in mind, there's a good percentage of those stores that they're either closing or relocating from either bad lease agreements or just not enough volume. So when a big company as Trek is shutting stuff down, there's a huge risk to consider in that as well. Is there enough blue sky, basically, in that, customer base, traffic? Is it, a name that's a staple of the region, known for years? That kind of thing. There's a lot of ifs on that. And then you got to question everything. Would it be even better if I just opened up a store across the street and do my own thing? You know, not to be mean about it, but that's that's possibility. That's the kind of thing that we're looking at. All right. Oh, I'm sorry, David, the Jameis turned on you. That's not good. Yeah, you guys chat about different brands. Because I haven't been dealing with brands directly in a lot of years, so I'm not a Kool-Aid drinker of any of them. I just know or heard of them or dealt with them. But what they are currently today, a lot of them I can't tell you exactly what state of the state and how they work with other people. But I heard Giant is supposed to be more a little warm and fuzzy to independent bike dealers. We'll see if that's true. Guava mentioned that in one of his videos of one of the brands he picked. But you might want to reach out to him and say, well, how's Giant treating you now? What do you think after having them for a couple months? That might be something to think about. And yeah, and then again, always think of it this way. All those brands, they're always worried about themselves more than you. So they're never going to they're not going to help you out when you really need it. They're going to just help you out when it's convenient for them. That kind of thing. Let's see. I tell folks to order from the manufacturer and they can definitely get it cheaper if they pay more with me. They'll get a fully assembled, meticulously tuned bike. And hey, if you make videos, simple videos with your phone to put on your website of what you do when you're assembling new bikes, that gives that's that value prop right there. Huge. That's where you can really leverage the social media portion of it. Or just your website. I can't tell you how many of the websites I've looked at and just like, this really doesn't tell me anything about the company besides the brands you sell. Like you may have a little bio about what you did or whatever, but if you have an upfront video, it's like, hey, we take care of everybody that comes in. If you're really service oriented, you need to have a service video up there. If you're into supporting your community and bikes and new bikes is what we do on new bikes. People don't know. They don't know you put all that effort into it. So if you see that effort and they're like, buyer beware, if you buy something online, you're going to have to do all this to pay for all the service yourself, especially on the less expensive ones. And the warranties and all that applies to that as well, for sure. People are paying for more convenience these days. Yeah, we were preconditioned through COVID. I mean, I want that tomorrow. Actually, I want that this afternoon. Click, here it is. With bikes, they understand the intricacies of working on a bike or dealing with a flat and all of that. That's where you can provide that value prop. And when you're looking at opening a shop and working at a shop, that's the kind of things you need to really consider. It's like, are you gonna be okay of dealing with those things? And the pros and cons. You got the passion, you got a community, helping others, and being your own boss, which is kind of funny, and potential for profit, which is super funny. But all those have all the pros to the buying or working in your own shop has a lot of cons that equally match that, if not actually in the same category. And it's if you embrace the direct consumer, I know this is going to chap some people's hides. Like you have to embrace it. We were forced with that back in the 90s when Performance was selling bike chains at our cost to customers. I mean, and I remember being pissed at customers bringing in their bicycle chain. Well, if you build your business around service and we'll charge you labor, okay, think of it this way. You didn't have to buy all those chains and have them sit on the shelf and maybe make some money off of it, ish. You do some of that, or you do what I've leveraged. This is interesting. I leveraged pre-waxed chains, and that's what I sell. So they can get them kinda, but they really have to dig far and deep to find those chains out there. But you're bringing your bike in, it's like, oh yeah, it needs a new chain. And it's usually the lower end service. If they're bringing their own chains, like, well, then you can sell the wax service on the new chain. So there's a lead in on those. That's if you want to go in that direction. So people just know, like, no on wax. I mean, that's fine, whatever. But just a case in point of example. So if you look at other opportunities in your service department to do those things, you're still providing a service, and that actually it will be a paid service. And the service departments have always, or forced or whatever, never been paid for what their expertise are. They just, you can't, unfortunately. I mean, I should be making $150 to $200 an hour what I do. All the knowledge and all the training and everything I've done over the years. But that's not the case. I'm lucky to get $25 to $50 an hour. I mean, and that's where you have a huge disconnect within the industry. So think of that as being like a Achilles heel to your bike shop plans. Because if you're trying to running a service department, all those people have to make a living. And it's a very tough, unless they're passionate, an old timer that's just doing a retirement type of thing. Yeah, you may be lucky there, but how long can they do that? And how many of those are going to get down the road? Not many. So there's a lot of those demographics you got to work about. But if you keep it small, then you can manage those risks for sure. Yeah. Now you guys are talking about KHS brand. Yeah. So that's QVP and Shimano direct. Yeah. Shimano is pretty common direct. QVP is one of those brands you can leverage to sell online, right? Which I know a couple of shops have done that. I've been doing that for decades. The craziest shop I walked into was Tree Fort in Ypsilanti, Michigan. Tree Fort is still around. You can look them up. You walk into the shop, and it's in a strip mall. And the retail space was no bigger than my 2-car garage. Shit you not, no bigger. But they had several other units that were just warehouse space. They were selling, basically they had a QBB account and they were selling the stuff online for decades. So, they don't care about the customer walking on the door. They just needed that storefront to have the contract with QBP. And they sold and sell a ton of stuff. So when QBP, I believe, you can quote me or direct me in a better direction, but if I think they drop ship direct to the consumer now, right? So you don't make much as a margin, but you don't have to stock it all. All you have to do is pretty much promote it. Therefore, I've seen a couple companies like 365 Cycle and a couple other ones that they say they have warehouse. Well, one specifically had warehouses which were the same. They didn't have store locations. They had like 2, but the warehouse locations were all matching where the QVP warehouses were. So, yeah, that's one of those things where, was he owned by a web guy initially? Probably. I mean, his website's pretty good. I mean, they've been doing good with it for decades now. Yeah, it was a pretty genius move on their end because they were just selling year round. And, even though they were not technically with QVP at the time to sell online, the QVP rep did not even acknowledge it. Like, oh no, there's a storefront. They're selling all that. You think they're selling all that stuff through their storefront? That's no way in hell. That was like 10, 15 years ago when I saw that. Anyway. Oh, you met him at Frostbite? Oh, so you must be up in the Michiganer area. Yeah. The thumb mitten. Is it this way? I can't remember. It's been a while since we lived there only for 2 years. Yeah. He's like the silent giant. I mean, that was the only thing I would probably do if I wanted to do that. I don't know if I want the stress of that, but I would get one of those garage industrial units, throw up a sign saying Innova Guy Bicycles, appointment only, or then have 1 or 2 reps stop by, and then just do the whole online thing and sell through a website. I mean, what I'm doing, out of all the used old stuff that I sell on my website, I have fairly decent traffic just from that on my website, because people, the SEO on it picks up on that, and it's like, oh, that 5200, click, 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 and they see mine, they go to my site, and it's, hopefully I can catch something on something else while they're looking at that page. But yeah, well, it's a whole different realm. Um, yeah. Yeah, okay. Industry little secret, using bike shops to clear inventory. Yeah, that's, they like QBP when they're sitting on too much inventory, and unfortunately, but yeah, it's Colorado Cyclists and Planet. I mean, they had their own locations, but I think they got caught up in buying too much inventory and they don't want to pay their bills because it was forced upon them, which a lot of companies were in that boat during the whiplash. But yeah, it's one of those scenarios where what do you do at the ground level, and yeah. If you're a bike shop, also another part of this whole thing is opening up a bike shop. I'd keep it smaller, but also focus your attention on doing a WordPress site with a WooCommerce integration like I have, and put your used stuff on there and sell it through your website, and in addition to used bikes. And then you can do your blogs and everything. You have to leverage that, because that's where a lot of people are living, is on looking, searching. And I don't know how many times I've sold refurbished bikes and parts through my website, or I had it on eBay, then they saw my website under the same pull-up list. It's, if you list the SEO the same, you'll show the eBay bike, and then it'll show your website bike right next to each other. And then they can figure out, why is that $100 cheaper? Well, you're not paying eBay 15 freaking percent, and you're only paying the 3% for WooCommerce, which is actually backed by Stripe, which is a normal credit card transactional layer for websites. So it's safe and it works well. So you got to keep your finger to that. It's like, okay, I got my little shop. I'm going to be working on bikes. I'm going to try to sell bikes. But you're missing, the whole opportunity is that online sales, especially with used stuff. Then when you're saying, social media and videos, like I'd mentioned before, half of my tune-ups came from people seeing me working on bikes and refurbishing bikes. And you don't need as many videos as me, but if you throw up a few so they really see your craftsman to detail, or attention to detail, and your craftsmanship and all that stuff, and they like they don't get to see the mechanics when they go to a lot of these shops because they're behind a wall. They like to know their mechanic. I have people driving an hour and a half away to drop off their bike for me to work on, and come back a week or two later to come back and pick it up. Keep that in mind. You now open up your market to massive radius instead of just your little micro market. So by leveraging your shop's website with videos, with the YouTube channel, you can really broaden your net of service work and other things you do sell. It's been pretty much of an eye-opener for me, and amazing, because I just started doing videos just because I need to validate what I was trying to sell online, because things were starting to slow down, and that turned out to be a whole thing. So here I am talking to you guys. And again, thank you for watching, because it takes you to make this channel. And this is one of the success parts, because I tried Facebook I wish I would have tried this first instead of Facebook, because I did Facebook page first. Still kind of a dud. I don't know if I really got my head around it or whatever, or Mark Zuckerberg is just trying to take up too much money and you got to pay to get out there. Same thing with Instagram, which is owned by the same company. But with the YouTube, it actually is a great way to get the message out there. And then you can embed these videos easily within your own website and build up your own SEO through the websites, through your own networking. So it's a whole channel thing. Yeah, it's a lot of marketing. It's a lot of get your head around, and all that stuff is not touching one of these things. You're just like, you're learning new crafts and different perspectives, but you can leverage your business and keep yourself smaller, and not have to have a huge footprint. And some of those shops that I've seen, they don't sell online. They don't have any embedded videos. They just have, it's just like a yellow page ads, if you know what that is, on the internet. And other than that, it really doesn't help the customer. It doesn't draw the customer in to what you get them to close a sale. I mean, it's definitely, if you're needing to improve your business in slower times, that's one way to leverage it without paying too much. I mean, you have to learn how to do it yourself. Ton of videos on how to do web stuff. As long as you can access it yourself and do those changes, you can do it. You can do it. Or have somebody set up pages where it's easy and teach you how to do your own pages so you can continuously add content. And that's another direction to go too. That's what a buddy of mine did for me. But he's a front-end software developer. And he used to work at the bike shop with me and is a lifetime buddy. But, he's like, I could, build you up a website and you can maintain it yourself. And he's like, he told me, it's like, you're the one that's making everything work. Like, you just, it's content. He just gave it the mainframe and I'm just blowing it out of the water. So I'm leveraging it and I'm shifting gears and leveraging it even more. So that's where I'm kind of working in my direction for sure. So yeah, looking at a small shop and the cons, if you can get yourself in a scenario where it's appointment based, that gives you some sanity so you can have a life-ish. You can actually go ride your bike. That thing. If it's a smaller area, it's a tight, your margin is not as tight. And then if you're competing on the online market like everybody else, you're right there. You're competing. So you don't have to be so, I hate the internet. And that also, selling stuff online, you hit markets in your off season. Right now I'm selling to Texas like I did yesterday, or California, or what have you, if it's not on fire. They're buying parts and stuff because it's their season for riding. And that cuts down the risk for your full year round. So instead of having to do snowboards and skis, leveraging the online sales and so forth with used stuff will definitely help you keep the lights on. And then you might drive more customers in the in-season, which I have before. For case in point, one of my best customers I had, and I didn't have him until he found a used bike that I refurbished, and he drove up an hour away, and he was buying a bike from his son. He took it for a test ride, and it was kind of funny. It was like a clown car. It's like his whole family just spilled out of the car. It's like, when you see that, it's like, oh boy, what am I faced here? But he comes in, he's drilling me with all these questions at first. And I'm like, what is this guy? Why is he like, I'm just, okay. I tell him my whole pitch and everything. And I show him the shop, what I'm doing and all that. It turns out that guy has like 6 bikes for each one of his kids and himself and his wife here in Colorado. Another one, same amount in another state. And he's continuously giving me bikes to work on. You just never know. And in that one sale of a used bike, I think he sold them for like $600, a Le Mans, whatever it was. I've worked on, I had too many bikes. I mean, he continuously drives business for me to work on. So, case in point, the used market can drive your service department as well. Because if they see you do such a good job here, and I've had that happen. People will start bringing, I need to get my bike tuned up too, or this other bike, or what have you. So it just kind of flourishes. And that's just me in a little market, like, that kind of thing. So anyway, let's see. All right. That's no longer a bike shop. It's an online store. Yeah-ish. Treefort was not really a friendly bike shop. Like, some guy eventually pop his head out and go, yeah, what do you need? Like, kind of like that. And we're like, oh, just looking. They had some stuff on there. And they did some events, but it's more like an online store, but with a storefront. And, it all depends. It all depends what you want to do with your shop, or what you have with your shop, that kind of thing, and where you want to, have your successes and grow. And growing, like in the Guava, is very interesting because he's gone a completely different direction than he anticipated, which happens a lot. Because, if you haven't been in that area and grew up in that area, and even then, you may not know what the markets that will sustain for what kind of bikes, what kind of niche riding. And I had one person who's like, well, niches changes all the time. It's like, well, some do and some don't. There's fads like the road bike for Lance and mountain bike of the late 80s, early 90s. And, now it's gravel, now it's e-bikes. And, But there's some basics, like I would say the family shop, the mom and pop, bring your kids in, we'll get them kids bikes, the lower entry level recreational bikes, that hasn't changed that much. I mean, what's been available to sell has, so a lot of people have leveraged used, and the prices have gone up. But that and the family local shops, there's some shops that have really, leveraged that to some level. Will and Sprocket up in Wisconsin, they're very much like that. They're family owned, family oriented. I mean, it doesn't feel like when you go, their stores are nice, but they don't feel like you walk in and you're going to be like in a very uncomfortable situation with a salesperson. Like when you go onto a Porsche dealership website, or I don't know. The other one's really weird is we were in Vegas and we're going through Caesar's Palace Mall kind of thing, and I was just there to look at the statues, the architecture, and all that. But you see some of these, like the Gucci shop, and there's like this big bouncer-looking person. They only let one person in the shop. Well, that one person that walks in there, that they're allowed in there, they probably have to have a credit rating and give you a credit card at the front door, has to feel super intimidated to buy something. I mean, I'm going to mortgage my house just to buy myself a satchel. In any case, that's what some of those shops have become. And, I really love, like the shop that I went into yesterday. I walked in and it smelled like a bike. It smelled of rubber. And you're like, it is organized and clean for how small it was. But man, it had like that bike shop feel vibe that was like a warm hug to me anyway. It's like, oh, this is the bike shop. This is not sterile, that kind of feel. But anyway, that's me. In any case. But yeah, so on that video, I talked about positives, the pros, and I joked on them. These are not so much really pros. And the cons, you got to, there's some things you can really overcome them. But the main point right now in our current state of the state, if you're opening a shop, you're going to really need a leverage service, and you always had been or will be. So if you're not really good at wrenching, you don't have to be smart in the sense of like know all of it. You'll learn it as you go. But if you're really good at taking things apart and putting them back together, you have a good, there's a good stronghold. There is, I did see, there is still a bike school. I think they're in Oregon. It used to be Barnett's here in Colorado, but there's one in Oregon they'll teach you. I don't know how much they'll teach you. Honestly, you can probably learn most of it online now, like through various YouTube videos or what have you. If I had the time and the money and the patience, I would build courses myself. Basically, this is the basics of building a bike, but then again, I don't have that much. Well, I do get new bikes in here, so I can do leveraging that. And then, service work on older bikes, like how to take apart one of these guys and what to look out for. Also on shifters like this. YouTube wasn't around when this stuff was around, so this is basically a gold mine for me to make videos of, ST 6500 or 6503 rear or front derailleur, how to adjust it, what to look out for when you ultrasonic clean it, what kind of tabs are you looking for hairline cracks, for spring brakes, all those kinds of things that I know, and you probably do too if you're working in a shop, but that's like liquid gold to make a video, especially those tech videos. And there's one, it was a bin cycle on Instagram. He takes, Deore screw derailleurs fall apart, all apart and put them back together, like 1 minute little thing. I'm sure he's doing pretty good. And you can cross that over to every other social media one. And, there lies, you got a customer base, and then you have people maybe looking into stuff. So there's different ways, the thing. But when I first came this out, it's like, thinking about it, I was like, what defines a bike shop these days? Is a bike shop a traditional guy with a wall of tools and an apron, maybe, if you're lucky, and a bottle of lube saying, I'll fix that? Is that a bike shop? Or is a bike shop to just sell used bikes and that's it? They don't service them? Is it a bike shop that sells most of their stuff online? Is that a bike shop? I mean, you alluded to it's like, well, it's more like an online web business. I'm like, well, yeah, but isn't that technically kind of a bike shop too? I mean, it's really great. But what I broke it down was like your three types for independent bike shops, by the way, not corporates. Like one is your garage shop, like me, and a mobile, which is very similar. So you got that kind of realm. Then you got the smaller niche shop, like the one I visited, the Josh at Precision e-bike, and he does motors and motor conversions and e-bikes and sells new and works on a lot of them, and testing batteries and motors and all that stuff. I mean, that's like your small niche shop. And you know, somebody rolls in with a road bike, he's going to go, oh no, go talk to a Noah guy, he'll take care of you. It's like, he's so tooled up for doing, what he does. It's awesome, but I'm so tooled up for a different direction. So you got to find that if you're lucky enough to have a market area, or maybe it is the niche is the full family shop, like the Parker Bikes days, that we did a lot of the lower end everything. And we do sell once in a while upper and high end, because our customer would be like, oh, we want this bike, then you special order. And if they like you, if they're a good customer, then mostly they'll go through you, that kind of thing. Or they'll use you for service, where you can really leverage that. And then you have the multi-chain locations. That's a big lift, and that's where Trek and Specialized have been buying all those shops up, and Pawn Holdings as well. So there's not going to be a lot of opportunities there. Or if you're going to open up one, you better have a lot of interest. But that takes a lot of money up front, and like the verbiage goes, you got to have, if you want to make money in the bicycling industry, if you want to make $1 million in the cycling industry, you got to start off with 2. That's very true. So it's a long haul. The shops that I know that have been very successful, that have gotten pretty big, they've been around for decades. And there's, it's not something you can just plug and play. Trek has tried the plug and play, and they are having some hardships right now, especially. And then, you can leverage inventory and staffing and all that when you have multiple locations, but there is some hardships to it. I worked at a smaller 3 location here in Fort Collins for several years, over a couple decades, and there are always some hardships to it. I mean, he did pretty well, but one shop would carry the other 2 always at one time. That's what it was, that kind of thing. There's no longer bike shops. That's an online store. You guys remember Supergo? And Performance Bike that bought Supergo, and then they bought Nash Bar and all of that. Well, Schnook, the owner of Performance, he sold the company, and if you don't know the story, well, the investment company that bought it drove it to the ground. And now, there's still Performance Bike, but I think the name got purchased by a company in California. So there we go. So we're in the world. So it's what you want to do. You're not going to make a lot of money at it. Are you going to be happy? If you leverage it right, it's really fun. It's a good, I love my customers. I have really good select customers that come see me and have me work on their stuff. And by what I do, I end up vetting even better customers, the best customers I've ever had before. It's insane. It's just one of those situations where, even though they're new, when they find me and I talk to them, they're like, oh, it's like I resonate with a lot of them, because a lot of the shops in my area, or where they're coming from, don't resonate with just normal folk. They just want to have a good time riding their bike and not feel like they're being nickeled and dimed. And I drink in nobody's Kool-Aid except for my own. And that's the only Kool-Aid you should drink, because when you're talking to any of these brands, they're profit companies. They're in for themselves, and they're going to try to leverage you to make them more money. If that's a win-win, that's great. If in a hot second, if it doesn't work out, right, David? If it doesn't work for you, you're like, oop, shelf that line, I'm going to get another one. Shuffle them until you find one that works for right now, because right now, that's where we're in the state. I mean, all of them right now are looking for dealers, because the shrinking dealer mass is going smaller. Because there was an article in Bicycle Retailer about We lost over 500 independent bike dealers in the last year, but we gained another 200 or 300 or whatever. It was like almost even swap. But here's the thing. It's not an even swap, because when Trek was buying a whole bunch of stores, that's part of that pool of new shops. So it's more of those smaller independent shops where Giant's trying to get back in, leveraging, because guess what? Trek Specialized and Pond has scooped up a lot of locations, and Pond specifically is leveraging all sides of the market. They're in it for business profit, of course, because they have bikes in Walmart, they have bikes in Target, they have bikes in Dick's Sporting Goods and REI. They have bikes in a lot of bike shops too, independent ones, as well as their own brand, Mike's Bikes, which is, I think, 20 or 30 stores, maybe growing. So when you're looking at them, they got to be scaring the pants off of Trek a little bit, because Trek has a whole bunch of bike shops, but they only have one brand. And here's another interesting fact is Specialized stores are mostly named after the original one or in cycle. And they did that on purpose so they can leverage other brands. So if the Specialized brand is not the strongest and they need to bring in something from QBP or something else, they can sell that in their stores. So they're not just specifically all Trek. So Trek is probably the weakest one when it comes to the weakest one that comes to the retail portion of it, but they're the ones that have the most retail locations, oddly enough. But when you look at corporate owned is still, Trek is probably one of the last ones that are owned by its own family that made their own company. However you feel about it, but they're not an investment company. Pond's an investment company. Specialized, you're going to say, well, yeah, you got this guy or whatever. They're partially owned by an investment backing, Merida, which is a manufacturer in Taiwan. And Merida also builds their own bikes line, just like Giant does, but it's all in Europe and everywhere else except for the U.S. Specialized is their leader brand. That's what I don't know, is what the contract and all that. You guys probably know more detail on the back end of that or historical. But anyway, it's interesting. So when you're opening up a bike shop, you cannot put yourself in a position to compete against those guys, but you can make yourself succeed for their shortfalls. Reason being, their service is okay, but you can do better. They don't sell any used. I mean, Trek does, but it's not really, they're not hitting the right markets or all markets. So you can still leverage the used. You can still leverage lower end. And also you can leverage the warm hug customer service bike shop. If you want to bring in brick and mortar. If you want to be a pseudo hybrid like me, start off small. Do it part-time. Keep your other job. See if you can like it. If you love it, like I did a test pilot for a year before I did this full-time. Just heads up. Oh, actually 2 years. Kind of test it out and see if I want to do it. Do I want to do it? Do I want to do it? And sure enough, we're at I'm on a trip with my wife, and I'm like, I want to do this. Let's do this. And sure shit, COVID hit. That was weird. But I'm still here. And it's changed. In the last 5 years, my business model has changed like 3 different directions. Some of it did hurt me, then I overcame that, and here I am today doing what I'm doing today. So there's a lesson to be learned that you got to be very flexible, fluid. If you want to do it, start small. Don't jump in it too deep, and don't blow your whole life savings. And if you're going to spend a lot of money right up front, it's almost better to buy a building and opening up your own store, owning a building, versus buying somebody's old business, because even though you might buy their customer base in blue sky, but you also you're buying into their headaches too. I rather generate my own headaches because I can own up to my own headaches, not somebody else's. That's food for thought there. Anyway. We got some interest here. Okay, I'm actually interested in department store quality bikes. Granted, I would sell them for a lot more than Walmart. True. Would you make any money? But would it bring in more sales to get the customers? Yeah, if you bring in that lower end, sure. Absolutely. So even in the 90s, if you guys have been around that long, we always knew that the department store brand bikes, if they actually had somebody that put them together with a professional mechanic and provided service and follow-up service, they put a lot of bike shops out of business. But they don't. They just have stock individuals or maybe somebody a little bit better to put those bikes together, but they don't. Here's the thing though. Okay, the Medem website, I'll need to add a link to that. Let's see if I can find it. Medem. M-A-N-D-H-A-M. Medem Bikes. Yeah, I'll drop this in the chat. I can get the website. Yeah, there we go. So here's the interesting, tricky bit on this one. This is what's very interesting. Is they reached out to me like, hey, you want to review a bike? I have a review. It's a video in my library. It's Gordini. So they, under this Medem, they have various Univega and some various other brands there, right? And it's basically a clearance. So, okay, Kent International is the company. Big, huge, been around forever. They sell to Target, Walmart, Academy Sports, Big Five Sporting Goods, where I used to work, all those. And they have these branch out brands. Van Diesel is the other one, is the one that carries more of their upper line. And they had these other, like Univega and other brand companies they have. So, okay, so they have a big order for these big box stores. Thousands of bikes, but they still have, like, whatever the run is done, they still have leftovers. Well, continue to me in small shops, a run of those smaller are still like 1,000 or 100 or 200 or whatever. So they're trying to figure out what to do with these leftovers. So basically the Medem is the leftover website that they built up to push out and super discount these. Okay, here's the interesting bit. It's free shipping, and they give the customers $75 credit to have a bike shop like you guys to put it together for them. They're not hard to put together. I mean, they're a little harder than like the bikes that come straight from Trek or Canyon or whatever, when it's just like 3 bolts and you put it together. Might be a little bit of trimming the wheels. It's like the old school building. Might have to adjust the hubs and all that, but still no more than an hour of your time really to put it together. But then again, you think about it, that $400 less bike that they're getting, you're getting $75. You don't have to invest in anything to carry those bikes and any of that. And then those are the customers that need everything. Bottle cages, helmets, gloves. You do a little static fitted for them, they're going to love you. Those little static fits, the little trainer like the old school, plumb line, gauge, make sure they're fit, adjustment on that. It's gold. I mean, it's huge. So if you're looking at a line, maybe you can, I don't know if they'll work like direct. I don't know, maybe. I'm still trying to work out a deal, but they do have an affiliate program where, they sell, you get like 15% off of their, up to 15% or something like that on the bike sold. But how I was going to try to leverage it, and which I already have leveraged it, is I told my customers, like, look at this bike. It's not bad. If you've done a few of them, you're like, it's not bad. I have one still sitting here for somebody to pick up, check it out. And it's under $500, and they're going to pay me $75. Well, you give them a receipt, and then they can file it, and they get their $75 back at some point, 2-3 weeks, whatever it is. But basically, they get a professionally built mechanic, free freight. They've had them shipped to my store, so I'm kind of selling it. I am selling it, but I'm getting the labor out of it. And then I got a customer that's going to need everything else. You can leverage that even more because you have the helmets and the bottle cages and the gloves and the shorts and all the other stuff. I don't in the garage shop. I'm not doing that business. I'm not in that for that. I'm just, it's like, this is a repeat customer too. It's like, oh, so I'm like, yeah, I'm having a hard time finding that used gravel, but hey, this is a new one. You have it shipped here. I get paid $75 and you're good. And then I get the follow-up service work on all of that. I'm not giving away free tune-ups on those. And yeah, you don't need to. Yeah, so it's something, you can reach out to them. They're accessible. International. The lady, what was her name? It wasn't Melissa. It's not Kara. That was Beaver. But anyway, yeah, reach out to them and see. Maybe it's like a discount, or if anything, you can leverage it. And it's just one of those things that looking at one of the bikes from Univacant, also they have Able brand. They do some used e-bikes too, but I have Specialized Roll, and a Specialized Roll is kind of like your modern day cruiser style. Look it up. It has like a BMX style looking bar. We have a pair of them. Love the fuck out of them. They're comfortable. Wife and I have one. I bought them used, expensively used. They're still going on a used market for $300 to $400. Super cheap componentry on it. It has turning on it. I'm like, why am I buying this? But I ride it. I'm like, this is comfortable. It's like fun. I throw baskets on it. We ride it to the store, and just when we go do road trips, we'll ride those. And there's a Univega one that looks dead on exactly the same thing. And there's also an Able one, dead on. I'm like, man, for less, new. I mean, like, oh, I need to get one or two of these in here just to see. And I don't know. Maybe contact them was like, well, if I buy it from you, will you give me the $75 credit for just, discount or whatever? And then I'll put it together and sell them for whatever their suggested retail, because everything they have on that website is discounted. So the way the prices you're seeing now are a little bit higher because they were like $100 or $2 less right in Christmas, but I think they're preparing for the tariff possibility, or maybe it's just an off-season, in-season thing. But they did drop those prices down pretty low. And if you contact them direct and like, hey, how many of these you have? And they're like, oh, we only have like 3 left. I'm like, I'm kind of sure if you threw a number at them or say, hey, if I buy all 3 of those, it never hurt to ask. I need to talk to him here soon anyway. But for me, what I was going to do, and here's the weird, tricky thing. What I was going to do is like, well, I was going to feature a few more of them on my channel, and then have an affiliate API link to my website. So I'm like, hey, check out this bike here. They go through my website. If you buy it, then I get the affiliate commission. So when you can do anything online that is a no lift, zero lift, or low lift sale for a transaction for you, that's longevity, that's a win. That'll help grease the wheels. What do you think I'm doing on YouTube? An extra grand a month here and there, 500 to a grand, really helps out. I'm doing this anyway. Well, maybe not this specifically, but I'm working on something and taking a video and doing that. Yeah, there's a lot of prep work to it. But anyway, that will eventually pool up, and those older videos there. So the case in point is if you can find any money pots that actually are low lift, easy work for you, that you're not having to touch everything, that's a win-win, and that'll help you drive your business. And so it gives you time to do the things you really want to do, right? Like for me, talking to you guys, I like doing this. I mean, because I'm working in a garage by myself. Come on. I'm going to go a little stir crazy. And I drive my wife nuts talking about bike stuff all the time. So if I have an outlet for a couple hours a week just to vent everything out, and I got some precipitation, like, hey, like what you're talking, like your Kool-Aid, like whatever, that's a cool thing. Anyway, yeah, David, check them out and see. It might be a win for you. It might work out. It may not, but it's something to see. You never know. You never know. Let's see here. Yeah, you can try the big box. Also with Madam International, I did talk to them about like, well, what about warranties and all that? So they said they would, they're more than happy. They're talking to talk to their customer support person, and it's like they're more than happy to talk to a bike shop person versus a customer in a sense of technical help, because if like a cassette's bad or the hanger's bad or whatever, right? So they're going to be like, oh, okay, I need a bad shifter and that. And the thing is you didn't hear from me, but most likely when you look at companies like this, I'm just going to use an example because I've heard stuff, and some companies have stopped taking returns. because it just costs them too much more to do the return. They'll just send out a whole new product. Didn't hear from me. So you get a bike that comes in from them and it's like bad shipping or something, right? Broken. You talk to them about it, call them up. Like, yeah, I got a customer about this. It's broken. You'll get a new one or something similar. Then what do you do with that one? Part it out. Sell those macro shift shifters. I don't know. Put it on another bike. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, and they're gonna, any of them right now are gonna want to sell anything at this point. I mean, any manufacturer. I mean, regardless of how they say how we're really in good standing or we're really doing fine, they're all gonna look to sell something at a certain price. So anyway, that's my gold nugget that I can give you guys, especially if you guys are in the industry. I'm glad to hear. I hope you guys are doing well out there. Appreciate it. And yeah, if you're not in the industry, you're just watching this and you find it very entertaining watching this replay. You know, help to support channels like mine on YouTube and so forth. A lot of us have Amazon shop affiliates. Basically what it is a cookie trail. So if you click on that, you look at like a hot wax warmer or a truing stand or something like that. Then you proceed to go shop for your other stuff, for your household goods like toilet paper and toothbrushes or toothpaste or whatever. We get, you know, a little cut of that. Therefore, it's a low cost, no lift transactional. We don't make a lot, but hey, every little bit helps and might pay for, you know, a dinner with the wife or something like that. But you know, things like that really help out. Also, the spread shop shirts where they have like the T-shirts like this and, you know, hats and stuff like that. That does help out. You know, for me, how I look at it, I don't want to just be given money. I mean, as much as that sounds great, and you should, no, I'm not just kidding. I'd rather have somebody get something, right? Like you're getting something for it, like a T-shirt or a hat. And it's like, it's a win-win. For me, it feels less awkward. Just, you know, that's why I don't have a Patreon. That's why I don't have like, support my channel, give me just money, which I probably should do at some point, but regardless. Some people find value in it, which is great. But I'd rather have you just, you know, go buy a T-shirt or a coffee cup, you know, at least you get something out of it. You promote me or whatever. And, you know, or just go to Amazon and just buy your regular shit from Amazon and just make sure the cookie link is through my page. I'm not supposed to say that, but that's how we're all making our money, or some of us. Then if you're a company that's looking to do brand deals, and here's also, I also want to pitch this. I know I have a couple of guys that work at shops or own shops. Here's this. Okay, it takes a lot to do a channel. And a lot of shops have started channels, especially big stores I've seen. And they just give up on a business. It's not an instant return of gratification. What if you had, I wouldn't say marketing, it is a marketing ploy, or a marketing business portion of it. What if you had a channel similar to mine that can be used to leverage your business? How do I leverage my business? Well, do an interview of your shop. Finding out what exactly you do, to get some video footage. If you're remote or too far away, you make some video footage, send it to somebody like me. I edit it up, give it a storyline. Then you can use that on your website, your social media pages, and also on my site where I have a lot more followers than you probably ever will, because you just don't have time to put into it. Not to say you can't, you can. Anyone can, as long as you put effort into it. But the thing is that way you're getting the benefit of the YouTube social media outlet and posting on your website without paying or putting all the time into it. Would that be a value prop for you? And everything does have a cost to it, but could it be something like that? Well, yeah, I guess it is an influencer helping to promote your business, but in a sense like, hey, David's shop. You know, it's like, oh, they're the ones that actually are, you know, supporting this channel. Or, oh, this show is brought to you by David's Bike Shop. You know, something like that. In any case, just kind of curious question, just seeing. Is, you know, I'm doing some interviews with some shops because I just want to talk to them, get to, you know, to bring that to light, different in how other people are doing their business, get into their shop and talk to them and maybe help them out, mostly help me out, give content. In any case, it's a win-win. And that's what I'm kind of looking into going forward. But in any case, let me know. Throw comments below if you're seeing this in the replay. Thanks for hanging out with me in the chat. It takes you to make this channel. And yeah, the other channel, check it out and subscribe to it, build it up. This old bike. It's one of those things where I'm gonna, if you're not wanting to hear all or pinged about the, all the industry news and that kind of stuff, you just want to look at older bikes being worked on, old tools being reviewed, old parts being refurbished, taken apart and put together, like the grip shift X-rays that I did just recently. That's where I'm going to have those content goes there. I figured it's kind of a diversifying kind of deal because it just seems like it's just too much for all just one space, even though a lot of you like to watch all that. The algorithm's going to give you what you're going to be wanting to watch anyway, so might as well subscribe to that one and give me the hours. And then on the back end of it, that gives me another little money pot where it may make a little bit here, but a combination of a couple channels or 2 or 3, they'll add up to one. About some like S brand, and they decided to go after me and shut my channel down. I still have a couple other channels to work off of. Yeah, always thinking about just making sure you're protected. And that goes to the bike shops too. You just can't put all your eggs in one basket of just selling high-end bikes. You shouldn't. I mean, if you're lucky to be in that market, sure, but most likely not. So you want to make sure you have all these other levers you can pull and go in different directions, like I have, to leverage to go forward, to be prosperous and be there tomorrow. Because today it's cold and wintry and high of 40, 30, something. Anyway, if you're going to the Interbike, no, God, no, not Interbike. If you're going to the Cabinet Show in Las Vegas, let me know. You can ping my website, justin@anoaguybicycles.com, or my Instagram. And say, hey, I'm going to be there. Maybe we can meet up at the show, have coffee or something, whatever. See people in person. Is sometimes, hope you don't feel like don't meet your heroes. I'm no one's hero. I'm just here just to do my thing. And but yeah, if you guys are going to the show, I look forward to going to it. It should be a lot of fun. Going to be there for both days. Wife and I, we have a condo out there, so I'll be there a little bit beforehand, just hanging out. So. And I'm bringing a buddy of mine from the Parker Bikes days. He does the front end development of my shop. So I'll be talking to him this Thursday to try to clean up my website. That he lets me do enough. I'm good enough to be bad at it. So I get the general concept, and then he goes in and cleans it all up and makes it look pretty. Because for me, it's just kind of like it's going with a sledgehammer and just. Oh, I should be here, do this, and I broke that, and the link's horrible, and then he goes in and is like, oh, I'll just fix it all up. But it's worked out really well, but in any case. Well, that wraps up about my time. My God, it's time to go take the wife out to lunch. Thanks for hanging out with me in the garage. If it's nice in your neck of the woods, please go for a ride. Check out the links below. If you have any information that you want to add to this at a later date, or if you're watching this replay, please throw it in the comments. This is a community here, so it makes this channel. So thank you, each one of you, for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Things are getting weird, in any case. Hopefully it doesn't get too weird for the rest of us. Good luck, and if you want, I'm going to try to make some more topics about bike shops and how to deal with them. I got some insights on that. I did a little questionnaire. And so there's going to be trying to do more interviews with bike shops, especially in the slower months that we're currently in right now, so I can get a reach there, and then try to provide more information so anybody out there is trying to figure out if they want to do this or not, or if they're crazy enough. It can be rewarding, and it could be a really big freaking headache. Thanks again for hanging out with me in the garage. Until next time, if it's Tuesday, it's Shop Talk Tuesday. See you next week.